You won't believe where we are today in one of the most beautiful places on the east coast of the United States, Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. And one of the neatest places you'll find, Mr. Michael Marks, the CEO and president of the Coastal Discovery Museum, is going to show us around one of the finest places to visit in all of the South, right?
Well, thank you very much. We're pleased to have you here. We're looking forward to kind of walking you around the property here. The property's got a great history. We've got lots of activities going on today, and hopefully you'll get a pretty good idea of what goes on here on a daily basis.
Pretty good sized place too, isn't it?
70 acres. It's an old plantation era property. In its early history, it was used as a hunting lodge for the folks up in the Northeast. It was finally used as a permanent residence in 1950. And the town of Hilton Head Island actually bought this property in the mid-90s to protect it from development, which the town of Hilton Head Island is very, very good at protecting property here on the island.
Well, we're not going to give all the secrets away yet.
We won't give them away.
Hey, we've got a lot of places to see and go. This is the only place in America where you can go crabbing on one side of the property and deer hunting on the other. Don't go away. It's all good stuff on the Out of the Norm show, where the stories are all about you today.
It's the Out of the Norm show, where the stories are all about you, with author, musician, radio and television personality, and all-around nice guy, your host, Norm Allen.
Hi, welcome back to the Out of the Norm show here at the Coastal Discovery Museum in beautiful Hilton Head, South Carolina. I'm with a gentleman who is the president and CEO of the organization, Mr. Michael Marks, and you've been great showing us around. I really enjoyed it. You have several buildings around the plantation, and I call it plantation or museum. It was a plantation to begin with.
Years and years ago, it was a working farm / plantation. When we took the property over about 8 years ago from the town, we came up with a master plan to try to preserve as many of the structures on the property as we possibly could. And at that time, there were 17 different buildings on this 70-acre plot. You'll find some of the oldest buildings on Hilton Head Island here on this property, and we've tried our best to protect them, preserve them. We did not necessarily want to create a house museum or a museum where you come in and see period-style furniture, but what we wanted to do was to protect the physical integrity of the building and turn it into a museum that focuses on history and nature. So what we've been doing is we've been taking these buildings that we thought had a future as far as programming goes, and we've been stabilizing those buildings. We couldn't do it all at one time because we've been raising money over the years. But we took the big building, which is used to be the main house, called the Discovery House, and we created our main museum in there. If you go in there, you'll find permanent exhibits, you'll find temporary exhibits, you'll find a lecture room in there, a gift shop, and things of this nature. And here's a fun one. We have part of a rocket. Now you're probably saying, why do you have part of a rocket here? Well, it so happens a couple of years ago, a rocket blasted off from Cape Canaveral, and it was putting a Air Force test communications satellite in space. And as it reached the Earth's atmosphere like it's supposed to do, it breaks apart and projects the satellite out into orbit. Well, we had to get this from the beach down the road, and it's too big for one lane, and they blocked off the highway, and we did a little ceremonial parade down the highway with it. But it's kind of fun to have it, and you can see how the honeycomb, it floated. This thing probably weighs 500 pounds.
Yeah, it's real light.
Yeah. And so that honeycomb helped it float.
This is beautiful out here. Now, why is this area of South Carolina called Low Country?
Well, it's a combination of marsh front, a lot of estuaries around the area that roll out into the ocean here. It's a classic place for the beautiful live oak trees, but there's miles and miles of waterfront in and around Hilton Head Island, which is only a 12-mile island. We do lots of our programming that focuses on the marsh and life on the marsh, whether it's nature related or whether it's history related. Today we have a fishing program going on down here where our participants are learning how to crab, and in some cases, some of these young folks have never seen a crab.
Right.
And so we have other programs here where we do crabbing, we catch the crabs, we take the crabs up to the house, they look at the crabs up close and personal, they drop them in a pot, you cook them, and then they eat them. So,
Hey, I'm for that.
so it's very popular, by the way. But today we've got fishing and crabbing. I don't see any shrimp net casting going on down there. But again, folks love to be out on the water, and this is a great way for them to have some fun and hopefully learn a little bit about fishing and crabbing and the life on the marsh.
So is it unusual, though? I mean, I think of shrimping, I think of Gulf Coast shrimping where they're doing everything offshore. But you shrimp right up here in these tidewaters.
We can shrimp right off the pier here, and we've got some folks who are very talented at throwing the cast net and taking it out into here and pulling up the cast net, and they'll have 15 or 20 shrimp in there during the right part of the season.
And an important part of the Coastal Discovery Museum is that everything is hands-on.
Very much hands-on, and that's a great way for people to have fun and learn at the same time. So that's really one of our focuses here.
You know, if you've never been to the coastal area crabbing, a crab to me came out of the freezer department at Walmart, but it's a whole lot different than that, isn't it?
It's a way of life down here in the low country. Certainly the Gullah Geechee community has lived on the marsh and made their life off the marsh and got a lot of their food right here on estuaries like the Jarvis Creek here.
Now, one of the things that they're crabbing with is these crab baskets or crab nets.
Right. You drop your bait in the middle here.
And the bait would be?
Fish heads and chicken
Just
legs and
stinks.
chicken wings, yeah. And then put it in there and drop it into the water, and sometimes we leave them in overnight, and the crabs will come in through here to feed off of the bait.
Right.
And it's a little difficult for them to get back out.
There's also different crabs.
Yeah, so you can...
There's also
over a
different
couple...
ways to catch them.
So over a couple of days, this would be...
Well,
you could get a full trap full.
When we're lucky, we can get 15 to 20 in here overnight easily.
And they use these not only in South Carolina, they use these all over the
Up and down the
coastal
coast.
area.
Yeah.
I've seen these in North Carolina and even down in Florida.
Yep.
All right. And this is what these little guys look like. Let's see if we can shake one up here. Watch me get... Want to see me get snapped here? One sneaking up on me back there. Because we're coastal, we didn't have a problem with during the Civil War, though, did we?
Civil War was a pretty interesting history here. It was mostly Union occupied on Hilton Head Island. It's also the site of one of the first freed villages for slaves, Mitchellville, and there's a real history going on in Mitchellville right now. Mitchellville had its own education system, its own form of government, its own economy, so to speak. But it was mostly occupied by the Union forces starting in 1861.
And in later years, you can get a book called Conrack by Pat Conroy, right?
Yep.
Great South Carolina writer.
Great. We have a lot of great South Carolina writers. Pat is certainly one of them, is probably one of the most popular. John Jakes lived here for a number of years. There's a lot of historical / novelists that you can find here in the area who really dig into the history here.
Well, those stories, I know Pat Conroy's book Conrack, as I mentioned, was a great movie too with John Voight, and it was all filmed right here in the Low Country about teaching school.
Prince of Tides is another one.
Prince of Tides, yeah, another one.
That was filmed in Beaufort.
Right up the road.
Right up the road.
And by the way, Beaufort is how far from here? About 20 miles?
I'd say close to 30 miles, but it's an easy drive right up the road. Savannah is not more than 45 miles away. So.
40, and then Charleston.
Charleston's about 100 miles, so it's pretty nicely located here where you can really grab into some really nice towns with great histories as well and great culture.
Now we're going to talk about one of the most important things I can think of about anything in South Carolina or in the South at all, and that's going to be the cooking. But we're going to talk about that and much more, and I think we're visiting the butterfly exhibit in just a few minutes right here on the Out of the Norm show, so don't go away. You're joining me, Mr. Michael Marks, and we're going to take you over at the Coastal Discovery Museum right here in Hilton Head. We're going to look at a lot more, so don't go away. We'll be right back after a quick break on the Out of the Norm show where the stories are all about you today.
The Out of the Norm show will be right back, where the stories are all about you.
We are now getting ready to enter the butterfly enclosure, which has been a very popular attraction here at the Coastal Discovery Museum. We installed this about 4 years ago, and our goal here is to cultivate butterflies that you typically find in the low country. Nothing exotic, just typical low country butterflies. And as you'll see here, here's a beautiful swallowtail that's jumped onto one of our plants outside the enclosure. Now, if our butterfly expert was here, he'd run and capture that, take it inside, and hopefully find a friend, and they'd lay eggs and caterpillars and make new butterflies. And I'll show you that process. We have that going on right now as well.
Hey, we're glad you're back with us. You joined us mid-conference here talking about butterflies. We're at the Coastal Discovery Museum in Hilton Head. We're going to go and check out these butterflies, so y'all come with us. I think you're going to enjoy this.
Our goal in here is to give our visitors a glimpse of butterfly basics, we call it. We want to teach them the life cycle of the butterfly. We have on the other side of our enclosure here a panel that shows which butterflies are currently active within the enclosure here and outside the enclosure. And then we have a little station in the back here where we actually capture the caterpillars, and we wait for them to turn to chrysalises. Then we hang the chrysalises up, and then several days later the chrysalis will turn into these beautiful butterflies, which you see flying over your head and around your head right now. This particular program, it's an outdoor enclosure. It's active from April through October, and then we kind of close it down, things go dormant, and then we get ready for the next season.
Do you replant everything during the off-season, or?
We do a lot of cutting back, and certainly some plants that get a little leggy, we'll take them out and replant with the same plants. And we also do a lot of experimenting with different plants, because the plants we have in here, they have to be plants that host the butterflies, they have to be plants that feed the butterflies, they have to be plants that the butterflies are comfortable laying their eggs on. And then once they turn to caterpillars are voracious eaters, and so we have volunteers who come in here and find the caterpillars, and that's when we put them in a container back here so they can eat till their heart's content. He is yet to turn into a chrysalis, but he's starting to. This one, you can see the blacker they get is when they're getting ready to come out of the chrysalis stage and become a butterfly.
Well, the butterfly exhibit is really interesting, and as you said, it only goes from what months?
It's active from April through about the end of October, and if October is a warm month here, which it can be, it might go through
a little longer,
first of November or so. But most of the time, you can come in here and probably find 5 different varieties of butterflies that are active inside and outside.
Well, it's beautiful. It's a great exhibit. Very creative, but also just a hands-on. But you also interested. You were telling me about the red on my jacket.
Yes, butterflies are attracted to certain colors, and red we've noticed is one of them. And I'm surprised one hasn't decided to land on your jacket there, because they like red. Don't ask me why, but they like red.
Well, if I stay out here in the sun much longer, they'll be landing on my face, because I'm feeling like it's getting red already.
Welcome to the low country.
Yeah, really. Hey, we're going to take a quick break right now and take off to another part of the Coastal Discovery Museum here in Hilton Head, South Carolina. So I hope you'll stick around with us. I think there's more good stuff for you right here on the Out of the Norm Show, where the stories are all about you.
Where the stories are all about you. Ding!
Hey, welcome back to the Out of the Norm Show. We hope you're enjoying our visit here in South Carolina at the Coastal Discovery Museum. Mr. Michael Marks with us, showing us around, and it's just been a wonderful, fascinating morning thus far, other than just being so humid. So are the mosquitoes actually truly the size of hummingbirds, as I've heard?
Well, you'll probably have more problem with the no-see-ums than you will the mosquitoes. As long as you stay close to the marsh, the mosquitoes aren't very active, but during certain times of the year, we have these little rascals called no-see-ums, which will just drive you crazy.
But as long as the wind is coming off the ocean, then that kind of helps keep the bugs driven inside.
Absolutely. Because this morning, since you've been here, I don't think you've probably noticed.
Haven't had to swat anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
How far are we from the ocean from here?
You're probably about 4 miles from the ocean. Hilton Head Island is a small island. It's 12 miles long. And it's in the shape of a shoe, if you've ever looked at it closely. Right. And we have a lot of estuaries on one side of the shoe, and we have the ocean on the other side.
Now, your interest is not only in the the butterflies and the wonderful wildlife that you have here on the plantation or at the museum, but you're very, very active in an important program on sea turtles.
Yes, we are the agency that monitors the loggerhead sea turtle for the Hilton Head Island area. We cover 11 miles of beach every morning during the sea turtle nesting season, which is middle of May through October. We're seeing, and happily we're seeing, a marked increase in the number of nests that are being laid here. Last year we had 320 some nests, which was a record. This year we're about 3/4 of the way through the season, and we're already up to, I believe, about 260 nests. So we think we're going to surpass last year's record-breaking year, and we have a sense that it's because of the conservation efforts that the town of Hilton Head has really focused on over the last 20 years to make sure that these endangered reptiles are really protected once they come onto the beach and nest.
Is the reason they come to this beach? Of course, it's because it's pristine and taken care of. But is this part of a migratory process?
It's a migratory. They typically will be coming back to the same area where they were born, and they will migrate up the coast, cut across the Atlantic Ocean, go over off the coast of England, come down along the coast of Africa, cut back over into the Caribbean, and do that cycle constantly.
Wow, so every 15 years you'll have the same turtle show up on the beach.
I believe I heard someone say that a full circuit could easily take 5 to 8 years for a turtle to make that. Once they get to the Gulf Stream, baby sea turtles have a very difficult time in surviving because they're tiny and there's lots of predators out there. But once they get to the Gulf Stream, when they emerge out of their nest, which is about 45 to 50 miles off our coastline, they got to swim like crazy, and they get up to the Gulf Stream where there's a lot of nutrients, and then they hopefully
grow fast. Wow.
But the statistics say 1 in 10,000 baby turtles will survive to adult age.
And we're seeing the population increase even in that.
Yes, yeah. So it's good news.
So they come in, lay their eggs, and then mama takes off.
Yep, and she will lay sometimes up to 5 to 7 nests during the season. She'll come in, lay a nest, go out, might go down the coast a little bit, come back in, lay another nest, go back out, come back in, lay another nest. So, you know, that's it. And each nest is about 100, can be upwards between 100 and 120 eggs that she lays. And typically it'll take her, she comes in onto the beach, she digs out the nest with her flippers, lays the eggs, covers it back up, tamps it down. It's amazing to watch this in action, and then she'll crawl back out to the beach, never to return to that spot. But it typically will take them 2.5 hours once they come onto the beach, find their spot,
do their thing.
thing.
And then in just a few years, those little eggs that are in there will be back to Hilton Head.
Well,
and it goes
20
over
years.
And over.
So
20
it'll
years.
take 20 years.
20 years. They'll come back around again, and the process goes over and over and over millions of times.
We hope so. We hope so.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yep.
What a creator we have. What a great discovery we have right here in beautiful Hilton Head, South Carolina. Hey, we're going to take another short break. We hope that you'll stick with us because I think there's more story and probably about the beautiful houses that you have here.
Okay.
Is that where we're headed next?
We're headed out in that direction to show you some houses and show you the Marsh Tacky horses.
Oh, yeah, the horses. Can't wait to see that. So don't go away. We'll be right back after a quick break on the Out of the Norm Show, where the stories are all about you.
The Out of the Norm Show, where the stories are all about you. We'll be right back after this.
This is Tadpole on the right, and that's Rosie. Tadpole's 3 years old. She's got the white hooves. It's got a lot of classic Marsh Tacky markings on it. You'll notice the zebra-like stripes on its legs. It's got this line down the back. That's another classic Marsh Tacky line. Again, Tadpole's about a little over 3 years old. We've had her off and on since she was about 6 months old. She used to be this size. And this is Rosie. Rosie just came to us about 2 months ago. She's about 4.5 years old. We're thinking Rosie's pregnant.
Oh, that'd be a good
And
thing.
yes, that'd be a great thing to have a full happen here. But again, as you can see, some of the other classic signs is, come here, Rosie. They have very wide foreheads, and their eyes are much wider apart than a classic horse.
I want to thank you so much for this great opportunity. I've not only learned something about coastal living, but I've learned a lot about American history too. This is a great place that's being preserved and move forward to generations to come. It's hard to think walking around this beautiful place that this is the 21st century.
Yes. When you drive onto the property, it's kind of like, am I on Hilton Head Island?
Now, there's no golf course here.
No golf course. No golf course.
Nor will there be. Well, that's great. For generations to come, they're going to really enjoy this, I'm sure, and it's a very important part of American history. And I thank you for taking the time to show us around. I really do.
I want to thank you for choosing to come out here and take the visit with me.
Well, we hope that you'll do the same. You know, American history has a lot of stories. It's not all about wars and battles and battlefields and things of that. The most important part of American history is the lifestyle of Americans, all the way back from the 1700s. And you've seen just a little glimpse of that right here at the Coastal Discovery Museum. We hope that you and your family, if you're headed toward the East Coast, it's worth the trip out here just to visit and just soak up a little bit of your heritage. In the meantime, we hope you'll join us again on the Out of the Norm show. We're going to be somewhere in America, could be in your hometown next, you just never know, because after all, the stories are always all about you. We'll see you again soon.
Like loving the South and me, just loving you. You can't go apart from things that are so dear and true. Like loving the South and me, just loving you.